Forget the trade war. The real battle for global dominance is being waged silently in currency exchange houses between two currencies, the US dollar and the Chinese yuan. What Donald Trump did in the past and might do again isn't just rhetoric. It's a direct attack on the heart of US financial supremacy. Understand how this dispute impacts your wallet, your investments, and the future of the world economy. The rivalry between the dollar and the yuan isn't new, but it gained global prominence with Donald Trump's policies. Trump's central accusation, and that of many in the US, was that China manipulated the yuan to keep it artificially cheap. What's the logic behind this? A devalued yuan makes Chinese products more competitive in the international market. Exporting more means more growth, more jobs in China. This strategy, according to critics, harmed American industries and jobs, constituting an unfair trade advantage. China, in turn, has always maintained that the yuan's value reflects market forces, although it admits interventions to maintain stability. The Chinese exchange rate regime is described as a managed float, which gives the People's Bank of China, PBOC, significant control over the currency. This management allows the yuan to move within a fluctuation band, but the PBOC can act to prevent excessive depreciations or appreciations. During his presidency, Trump elevated the currency issue to a central pillar of the trade war. The imposition of massive tariffs on Chinese products was, in part, an attempt to force China to appreciate the yuan. The idea was simple. A stronger yuan would make Chinese products more expensive, reducing their competitiveness and encouraging production in the US. However, the results were ambiguous. There were periods of sharp yuan depreciation, which many interpreted as a Chinese response to the tariffs, using devaluation to offset the cost of American taxes. At other times, the yuan showed relative stability or even appreciation, depending on the phases of trade negotiations and the economic health of both countries. The unpredictability generated market volatility, impacting businesses and investors globally. The essence of the battle lies in the dollar's status as the world's reserve currency. For decades, the dollar has been the bedrock of international trade, the currency in which most commodities are priced, and the main currency for global transactions and investments. This exorbitant privilege allows the US to finance deficits more easily and exert vast geopolitical influence. China aims to challenge this hegemony through the internationalization of the yuan. The goal is to make it a credible alternative to the dollar as a reserve and transaction currency. This requires deep financial reforms, greater opening of the Chinese capital market, and crucially, building global investor confidence. The main barrier is still the yuan's non-full convertibility, which limits the ease of capital movement for foreign investors. China employs various tactics to promote the yuan. The Belt and Road Initiative, or BRI, is a global infrastructure megaproject that uses the yuan in many of its financings and transactions, expanding the currency's use in dozens of countries. Additionally, the development of the CIPS, or Cross-Border Interbank Payment System, aims to offer an alternative to the US-dominated SWIFT, reducing the dependence of global financial institutions on the dollar. Currency swap agreements. The People's Bank of China has signed swap agreements with central banks of several countries, facilitating bilateral trade and direct investment in yuan. International recognition. The inclusion of the yuan in the basket of currencies that make up the International Monetary Fund's special drawing rights is formal recognition of its growing importance. The strength or weakness of the dollar and the yuan has direct impacts on the global economy and your life. A devalued yuan means cheaper Chinese products globally. This can mean lower prices for electronics, clothing, and other imported goods in your daily life. However, it can also harm domestic industries that compete with these imported products, potentially leading to job losses. Strong dollar makes commodities priced in dollars, like oil, more expensive, generating inflation in importing countries. For US exporting companies, products become more expensive, impacting sales. Weak dollar facilitates imports and makes American products more competitive, but can generate domestic inflation if imports become more expensive. The future with Trump more pressure ahead? Donald Trump's possible return to the US presidency is a factor of extreme unpredictability. His rhetoric and past actions indicate that the currency issue and economic rivalry with China would again be priorities. He may resort to new tariffs, sanctions, or other pressure tactics to try to force China to change its currency policy. However, the global landscape has changed. China is even more interconnected with the global economy. Furthermore, the pursuit of de-dollarization is no longer an exclusive agenda for China. Several countries seek to reduce their dependence on the dollar to avoid sanctions and external instabilities. Conclusion: a battle for global influence. The dispute between the dollar and the yuan is more than an economic skirmish. It's a battle for power and influence in the world order. Whoever holds the main reserve currency holds immense power. China seeks a more multipolar financial system where the yuan plays a significant role, challenging American hegemony. The US, in turn, resists any erosion of its privilege. The future of this rivalry is uncertain and complex. We can expect continued tension, difficult negotiations, and moments of volatility in currency markets. For us, citizens and investors, understanding this dynamic is crucial, as it will shape the business environment, the prices we pay, and the future of global prosperity. The future is being written now, in the fluctuations and negotiations of these two monetary superpowers. What's your take on this battle? Do you believe the yuan can one day surpass the dollar? Leave your comment and let's continue delving into this vital discussion.